Good morning, all, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you are in the world, you might be in Australia, you might be in Germany, you might be in the US, you might be watching this on demand. In any case, welcome to today's session. I thought I'd just sort of start by explaining, Effectiveness Week. So during this week-long series of workshops and events, we'll explore how a tighter focus and a shift in perspective from simply doing more to doing more of what matters can really help marketing efforts drive that substantial and long-term business growth. And across the week, we'll also be joined by experts from Marketo, Engagio, Palo Alto, Verizon Business Group, Magic Numbers, Funnel Fuel, etc., and of course some of our own thought leaders at the marketing practice. So it's really about unpacking how concentrating on your key strategic goals rather than chasing quantity and has helped leading brands achieve more impactful and sustainable outcomes. We'll explore how strategic, thoughtful media planning across the entire customer journey can really create a unified brand experience that keeps customers engaged. And we'll examine how focusing on high impact activities and integrating efforts across all touch points can help B2B marketers build lasting brand loyalty. We're going to touch on some of that today. But today is around integrated marketing for ABM success and balancing that scale and precision. And when I say ABM, I mean strategic ABM in this scenario. I also really want to welcome today Kerry Scotland, who is the Associate Director of Marketing APAC at Verizon Business Group. Kerry, welcome.
Thanks, Will. It's great to be here.
Kerry and I have been working together for the last 2-3 years on the strategic ABM program for Verizon, which is global, but focusing on the APAC market. So Kerry has a wealth of experience and knowledge and deep insight into strategic ABM and what that means across marketing functions, and not just marketing functions, but the business as a whole. So I'm really delighted that you've joined us today, Kerry. But before we get stuck into that, I just want to kind of paint a picture of the world that your top accounts live in, right? So the market is characterized by economic uncertainty. It's causing your top accounts and organizations overall to reprioritize their strategic initiatives or shift them based on an evolving status quo. So this means they're scrutinizing every decision. Budgets are tighter, sales cycles are longer, and competition is fiercer, especially from lower cost competitors who are commanding a larger share of voice simply because of their price point. And this is a challenging environment and really does require you to closely align with your top customers or top prospects' strategic directions, and not just in what you say, but in how you show up to them and how you deliver a consistent compelling experience across every touch point, which obviously leads in today's discussion around ABM and integrated marketing. But that's easier said than done, right? This is our world, and diving into some familiar challenges. Low share of wallet. It could be that you're missing opportunities for upselling and cross-selling into your top accounts. You might be recognized primarily for a single solution or engagement, and retention rates can be low with customers not fully adopting, consuming, or renewing their products and services as expected. With low RFP win rates, that could be affecting your ability to secure new business. You could be struggling to simply prove marketing's ROI for key accounts. And you might be doing an ABM program currently, or you might be doing something at scale, i.e. programmatic ABM, but there's a gap in implementing something strategic and something scalable as well within that strategic ABM program. Or there just simply might be a lack of alignment between sales and marketing teams, and that can really lead to stalled progress and missed opportunities. And this is particularly paramount when you are transitioning from a one-to-many approach to strategic ABM, which is today's focus. So just in terms of that synergy, when we're talking about strategic ABM, and at the Forrester B2B Summit in the US this year, there was an analyst called Shari Shrebnik, and they emphasized the critical importance of post-sale customer engagement. So companies that excel in this area experience a 58% increase in customer lifetime value and a 49% boost in upsell and cross-sell revenue. And this really highlights the critical importance of focusing on existing accounts in your business strategies. And with existing customers contributing 66% of revenue in the top 10% of loyal accounts spending 3 times more than others, nurturing these relationships becomes a cornerstone for sustained growth and profitability. And prioritizing current customers is not just a strategy, it's a path to long-term success. It's a revenue strategy for your business. So as I said in the intro, to maximize value, growth, and commercial success, businesses must identify and closely align with the strategic direction of their top customers. It could also be prospects, and we will touch on that. But this requires consistent communication and presence across all touch points and channels with target organizations. And that's where integrated marketing and strategic ABM. And when I say strategic ABM, I'm talking about one-to-one. I'm talking about one-to-few. I'm talking about, depending on your definition, I'm talking about one-to-one light. I'm talking about pursuit-based marketing. I'm talking about deal-based marketing. That is what we are talking about when we say strategic ABM. So it's a business strategy to win, grow, and retain your most important accounts. So the ABM journey doesn't end when the deal closes, is basically what I'm saying. So that's when we can really start driving value by using ABM strategies in post-sale engagement to maximize that lifetime value and identify those cross-sell and upsell opportunities that may not have ever been identified, regardless of your sales team who've been maybe working on the account for years. So Kerry, and I'm going to take a breath because that was a lot. But Kerry, would you agree? How do you see ABM fit within the post-sale customer engagement?
Yes, that's a really interesting question and area to look at, Will. I agree. So post-sale, so we've won the business, right? It doesn't rely in that period solely on sales and customer service, which are the traditional groups that you think of post-sale. It's about still integrating the key functions that are going to look after that customer. So that is along with marketing and the account owner, the main account owner. We call them client partners at Verizon. And this broader team, as well as marketing, the sales owner, the customer success team, it can include architects, product teams, segment specialists, sales ops, and so on. So I think that winning a new customer, winning that deal, in some respects is just the beginning of the journey. Certainly a lot of effort has gone in already, but it's the beginning of that customer journey where we have the customer. And the relationship needs to be built and strengthened over time based on knowledge, based on capability, and based on trust. So having the various stakeholders from the functional groups engaged in developing the account across its lifetime gives us the best chance of success, and having that true customer partnership, which is what we're striving for. So in essence, I think, Will, sorry, Will, it's really about providing the best customer experience we can. It's about understanding the customer through all the different lenses of the different functional groups. And that's post-sale.
Absolutely, I agree. And it's almost like respect, and I know we're going to touch on it as well, but respecting the customer, which I'm looking forward to discussing soon. But I think we're naturally kind of going into the next part, which is around that cross-functional collaboration for ABM. So really, effective strategic ABM is about collaboration. This is where a lot of ABM programs fall down, in my opinion. And when you've got, in your case, security sales specialists working alongside solution specialists, you might even have, and I know this is not the case in Verizon, but in your organization, you might have SDRs, you might have really astute customer success managers, product teams who are trying to bring something, innovative to market, particularly around now with AI. It's really important that you have those people involved and to deliver that more cohesive, sort of tailored solution to your customer, but not only the solution, but the message. So each team brings a unique insight that helps us address customer needs more effectively. So if you're going through something that's more one-to-many into something more strategic, it's really important that you understand this. So selecting the right customers for one-to-one ABM is essential, but also the right team. So focusing on the right accounts that have strategic potential, the right budget allocation and long-term growth opportunities. But it's when you're selecting an account for a strategic ABM program, you can't just rely on gut feeling. There needs to be a process involved, and you need to back that up with that intuition, with the scoring criteria, essentially. And that's where that sort of cross-functional collaboration really does come into play. You need to score that. So Kerry, I know Verizon's got something robust in place. Can you explain how, or share with us how Verizon's scores accounts for one-to-one ABM and how you balance that gut feeling with data?
Yeah, no, really good. And I think gut feeling is important, but you do have to have that methodology or the science behind it to really understand that account. So it's important to have the right customers in the one-to-one ABM treatment. I think we all agree. One-to-one ABM is a true investment of time, of people, and of dollars over time. And we need to make sure as much as we can that the account is the right fit. So as you said, Will, we use the scoring tool in Verizon. And for the most part, it's completed by the ABM marketer, the one-to-one ABM marketer, together with sales ops and the regional sales ops lead. Sales op has an enormous amount of account knowledge, but they're not sales. And that's an important distinction when we're doing that initial scoring. And the criteria that we look at broadly in the scoring tool are the account relationships. So evaluate the existing relationships, the strength of those relationships or not within that account. We look at the account itself, its firmographics, its IT budgets, potential spend. So looking at our share of wallet, currently looking at other potential opportunity areas that might exist and have been identified. We look at whether there's a significant opportunity already in the account. And this opportunity, significant in size and strategic in value, within a 12 to 24 month window. That's the ideal window for us in our one-to-one ABM motion. We look at whether there's an existing account plan that sales produce. And the last area is really crucial, and it's become more and more apparent to us over the time that we've been running one-to-one ABM, how crucial it is. And it is the client partner themselves. So the key sales account owner, looking at their skills and commitment. We need to ensure that main account owner is really willing to collaborate, is really open to trying new ideas. And some of the new ideas that come through the one-to-one ABM process might be quite left of field for a client partner. So it's them being able to trust, to try new things, to collaborate in a partnership with marketing and the broader team, and to invest their time, because there is time. Sometimes it's daily, certainly weekly, but investing their time in the program to grow that particular strategic customer. So that's really the essence of the scoring, Will.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. And there's a lot of common sense in there, but you'd be surprised how many people don't employ that. Even, I mean, you could even look at that if you don't want to do a scoring model for, and you should, but if you don't, you should be looking at those things. And I think your last point around the right salesperson, you might, and Gary used the term client partner, but it could be sales, any salesperson, an account executive who's on the one of your biggest accounts that that it's low hanging fruit. But if they're not bought in, or you're not getting the engagement you need, then the investment's going to fall flat. And you as marketing, who have picketed for that kind of investment to try and kind of reach your revenue targets as well, it's not going to be successful for anyone. So, and it could be, if it's a new program, if you're new to strategic ABM, having the right person on the pilot. So you might have 10 accounts that you want, but if you're going to pilot so the business understands if this is going to be a long-term investment and invest more, you want to make sure that that salesperson you've got on the 1 or 2 accounts that you've chosen is bought in and hungry. To your point, Gary, do something different, because it's not just about them making their targets at the end of the month. It's a marathon. It's working towards a big deal at the end of a 12 or 18-month period. There might be small wins along the way, but yeah, brilliant and very important to understand as well. Just kind of with that, having the right team, making sure that you do have more people in the business who are going to commit to it as well. And we're going to talk about executive buy-in as well later on. But it's essential to align your entire team before you get going with a strategic ABM program. So with choosing the right customers for one-to-one, there are a bunch of risks I just went through. One thing that I would encourage you to do is to continuously rescore and reevaluate accounts. And this doesn't look good as you justify a strategic ABM program to the business if it's not performing. So making sure that you're rescoring based on the current status quo, etc. This last point here, using signals from broader marketing to power one-to-one ABM and report back on engagement. So leveraging unified signal data across broader marketing activities allows us to refine our ABM strategy for specific accounts. So by tracking engagement signals monthly, you can really see where accounts are interacting with your content and adjust your ABM approach accordingly. And when I say engaging with your content, it could be across any of your functions. And Kerry, I'm really keen to hear about your experience with this. So how has Verizon used signal data to refine one-to-one ABM strategies and uncover new opportunities within the account?
Yeah, thanks, Will. Look, a one-to-one program, ABM program, is, at the end of the day, it's about creating influence widely and deeply in an account in order to have the best chance to win significant business and elevate the account to a partnership. So we need enough runway to strengthen relationships over time and have different stakeholders engage in the account with the right people. So an important input for this, for us to take into account, are the intent to buy signals that you talked about there, Will. And these can come from the ABM program itself and the tools that can be used, but also from the broader marketing campaign or team, from the field and the digital marketing programs, campaigns, and activities. And the main intent campaigns for us that we use, there are 2. Drumbeat nurture, so this is where we send monthly emails to members, and content syndication campaigns, where we find new contacts or re-engage existing ones. The results and the insights from these 2 campaigns are then shared with a one-to-one ABM team, and it can be coupled with the data and insights from an intent marketing tool. And there are several intent marketing tools. We use one, which is very good. And that is already part of the ABM's arsenal. So being able to bring that data and the insights from 2 broad campaigns run by field and digital into the ABM, coupled with that intent tool, is really quite powerful. Excuse me. These extra dimensions can really boost the power of ABM. That's how I think of it. ABM is powerful, one-to-one ABM, extremely powerful. This gives you the ultimate boost to the power of ABM. And it also allows you to find economies of scale. And in this way, we find new contacts in an ABM account that the team may not have been aware of. There might be new people who've joined the account. We can see what topics are resonating. And importantly, we can see those topics at an account level, but we can see it at a specific contact level to see if they are displaying buying signals. This can help us broaden influence, understand the customer's interests, and to see if they may be researching to buy. So briefly, what do we do in each of these areas? In the intent tool, we've worked out the quantification of how we're going to use these tools, right, in Verizon. In the intent tool, we look at surging. So are 4 or more people from an account researching a segment or a category? We look at that as maybe surging, and particularly if they do that over a couple of months. In drumbeat nurture, we look at engagement and topics. So are there 5 or more people in an account clicking in a nurture email, and especially when it may be repeated in 2 or 3 email cycles. So repeatedly, you're seeing an account with 5 or more people in that company, in that account, clicking on the emails to find out more and to engage. In content syndication, we look at engagement by downloads and the topics. So are there 5 or more people in an account who are downloading content around a specific topic? And that's the data that we use and the insights, and that's shared with the ABM team.
Great. No, I think it's really important to making sure that your account is qualified through all of those different touch points and integrating that back into the strategic program. I mean, what you've described is also applicable at scale for our one-to-many program as well, and that's that's standard. But I think it's really smart to actually be doing this for your strategic investments as well. And I think that kind of engagement that you've just sort of laid out, whether it be content syndication, whether it be nurture, I think one of the risks that I've seen, especially if it's a highly strategic account, and there might be something you're working towards that's landing in 8 months' time, is to make sure that you don't have engagement fatigue. I know Verizon does this very well, but I've seen businesses do this where if you're running multiple campaigns across different touch points, it's important to find the right balance and ensure that outreach is relevant, especially if they're incredibly senior. I can imagine we all get targeted, right, on all the different platforms for all the different needs that we might have. So imagine that at the C level. So that needs to be relevant. It needs to be well-timed rather than overwhelming accounts with too many touch points. You don't want a junior SDR, reaching out to someone who's just below a CFO, asking them if they're interested in a non-blue chip product, for example. I've seen it happen. So you're just going to make sure that you're on top of that.
Yeah, I might just add there too, Will.
Yes.
I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think the point being made here too from both of us is that the 2 programs, whether it's ABM and then your mainstream general field and digital, they coexist, right? But we ideally want to be able to not just have them coexist in their silos, but be able to share and coordinate together so that you get the extra power and the extra knowledge and insights, particularly back into ABM. So I think moving from coexistence into that more integrated approach carefully, to your point, is really important.
And I think that really ties in nicely with the next point and the next slide, Kerry. So this is around achieving scale, and this first point talks about exactly that, right? Singing the same tune. So, and you can apply this to marketing functions, but you can apply this to the entire business. If you're investing in a strategic ABM program, you've got to make sure it's a business strategy. Again, this ties back to what we were talking about before. So you have buy-in. You got to start with buy-in across your marketing functions. So, I mean, this whole pillar, this whole slide is dedicated around the importance of scaling ABM strategies effectively, ensuring that your campaigns can adapt and expand across multiple regions, markets, and customer segments and business divisions internally. So, I mean, just up the top there, and I want to sort of start with a stat. With 58% of sales leaders report pipeline reduction and 70% face extended sales cycles. Scaling ABM across large accounts really helps combat these challenges and allowing for more efficient, tailored campaigns that target high value accounts and optimize sales cycles. But to truly scale or achieve scale in ABM, you need to activate the full marketing ecosystem, which Kerry has just touched on. An ABM marketer cannot operate in isolation. They need support from every function, digital, events, content, nurture, to really successfully penetrate the accounts. And during sensitive times like RFP probity periods, leveraging the entire ecosystem becomes even more critical. So, Kerry, I'm keen to hear or continue your thought really about how you leverage your broader marketing functions in a strategic ABM program.
Yeah, sure, Will. So it is really important. And I think, as I said, this is the added boost to really boost the ABM, the one-to-one ABM program. I believe that in essence, I believe that the essence is to bring account insights from all field and digital marketing campaigns and programs to the ABM team, to fold into their account knowledge and to decide which of these might be actionable insights and what the next steps might be. So let's look at what this might be across the marketing funnel. So we've got top funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. In the top of funnel, that's about awareness and contact acquisition. So here we have the digital campaigns, podcasts, digital, printed, and out-of-home advertising for awareness and web traffic driving. We have content syndication for both awareness and contact acquisition. And of course, we have the content development that's sitting in that top of funnel area. All of these have their own insights and data that we can take to the ABM team to help them with their account knowledge. Middle of funnel or mid funnel, this is about engagement. So we know these people already. So here we have events. So all types of events, from roundtables, hospitality events, summits, large conferences and expos, webinars and so on. Events are a really good engagement activity for sales. They really like events because they can go and they can meet face-to-face with their customers. They can be run in the field program, and they are run in the field program and leveraged by ABM. So there's an existing event program. The ABM team can leverage their accounts into that program, but also specific events can be run in the ABM program only, focused account by account. And these could be exec briefings or workshops and so on. And middle of funnel is also where nurture sits, because that's digital engagement. And we talked about nurture and how we would measure that for ABM. Now, bottom of funnel is demand gen, right? And this layer is where we separate ABM and the field or general marketing. And we do this because all demand actions and decisions on an ABM account, a one-to-one ABM account, are made by the ABM team. So, for example, we might get a web inquiry from someone in an ABM account that is fed through our normal triage processes, but that is fed through to the ABM team before anything, no leads are assigned or anything. Everything goes to the ABM team at the demand layer. And so this is where moving beyond coexistence to integrating the programs, the team that is looking at web triage and inquiries and lead allocation to sales is aware of the ABM program and the ABM accounts and will be able to feed that back into the ABM team. You did talk a little bit about probity periods there, Will. I'll just talk a tiny bit to that.
Sure.
I think everyone on the call will know that at times we face probity periods when there's an RFP, right? We can't directly engage with accounts. So what can fill the void here are the top of funnel digital campaigns where your logo and your message is still in market. And this is an area where you could consider for the one-to-one ABM accounts or the accounts that you're in probity with, you can consider boosting the digital investment at these times. So that's just food for thought there.
And more food for thought, Kerry. I know a scenario in which there was a probity period for a big deal for a target account for a client. And there was some strategic out of home that was placed around the meeting room for the final signing that had been there for 6 months prior, but that was kind of a way that they had built that into their strategy, which I thought was quite novel. And also too, I mean, Verizon's got amazing brand content that is general. You've got a well-respected thought leadership top of funnel content, and I think just having that kind of brand to demand to ABM model really does work really well. You may not have a bunch of thought leadership, or your thought leadership may not be cutting through. So you might want to consider creating thought leadership at the vertical level. What does your brand mean for government? What does it mean for banking, etc.? I know that Verizon does a great sort of does this very well, not just for those verticals, but you need to consider what they mean in each of your sub-regions. And APAC's one of the most culturally and business diverse regions in the world, all at varying levels of maturity. So making sure that you have that built in is really important. And I think that kind of scaling it across, you could have a piece of thought leadership that is primary for a vertical, but then you can have it done in different languages, and making sure that your engagement is matched as well to the norms of that sub-region, which I know we're going to touch on as well, Kerry. But scaling doesn't always require reinventing the wheel. ABM Lite allows you to use what you've already built, whether it's content or messaging from other similar accounts, and applying it to new opportunities quickly. You might see this in one to few as well, but in the context of ABM Lite, this is especially useful when you've got a really short runway to win a deal. So it's usually built around pursuit or deal-based marketing. So when timelines are tight, ABM Lite really does offer you that practical way to scale fast and quick. It's about leveraging what you've already built, etc. So question for you, Kerry, because I know that Verizon's doing an ABM Lite program, right? And I'm interested to know how you've used it to capitalize on quick opportunities.
Yeah, yes. So ABM Light, as you said, has many other names depending where you are. ABM Pursuit, Deal Pursuit, and so on. But this is where we need to balance scale and speed. One thing I'd like to note here in ABM Light is that in this ABM motion, so you've got one-to-one ABM, ABM Light, one-to-few. In ABM Light, the pursuit, you can consider new logo or acquisition accounts. We tend to, in one-to-one, work with existing customers for growth. In the ABM Lite, you can absolutely look at the new logo, or we call them acquisition accounts, as well as existing customers. So I think that's a really important differentiation for us. So ABM Lite is where there's a large strategic opportunity, but only a short runway, as you said, Will. And it's usually resulting in a large RFP coming up, or an RFP with a large opportunity, or it could be a large renewal, a strategic renewal. Ideally, the runway is not less than 5 to 6 months. So, if you have a salesperson reach out and, the RFP is in 6 weeks' time, it's not going to be an ABM Lite candidate. We still need some runway to be able to assess what we have, leverage what we have, and make an impact. So we look at that not less than 5 or 6 months, ideally. So given that there is this shorter runway, normally we've got 12 to 24 months for one-to-one ABM. We've now got five or 6 months. What do we do? There is less time to exert influence in that account. There's less time to find all the right people in a buying group if we don't already know them. There's less time to strengthen peer relationships, less time to run workshops, create personalised message playbooks, and so on. So leverage is key, as you said, Will, working with what you have as the basis. And I think you made a good point there. Vertical or segment content can be really useful here. So showing and understanding, particularly where vertical content does have an element of research and data in that content, really important to be able to leverage that. Existing capability and solution content, playbooks, etc., existing relationships within that, greater than 5-month period, you may be able to augment relationships. So find a few more in that buying group that would be really good to be able to influence. Reviewing the existing account or opportunity plans, and looking at the existing digital and field campaigns. So where can the power of the broad marketing help? And this is where you might look at digital boosting, for example, to be able to give you that extra power. Now, we do score for ABM Lite, not only for one-to-one ABM. And we've found that the score for ABM Lite usually settles just below the level of an ideal one-to-one ABM candidate, which is really interesting. We will do more and more of this, and we'll see if this is validated more over time, but that's what we're finding now. And I'd like to also note that an ABM Lite account, so they've been scored, they're in the program, you win the deal, right? This account may become a one-to-one ABM account if the characteristics change as the account develops, and of course, if you've won that deal. So there can be a transition over time from an ABM Lite into a one-to-one ABM if the scoring and the data and insights show that this would be useful. ABM Lite can work for short cycle motions, as I've just described, but it should never replace that deeper strategic one-to-one that's required for the large strategic accounts. They really need to both be in play, ideally, but ABM Lite does need to be used selectively.
Yeah, you wouldn't do the robust insight reports and robust, sort of desk research, etc. You'd ideally, and I know this is something that many of our clients do, is that you'd be using, if you've just gone after an airline, then use that messaging for the other airline. If you've just gone after a bank, use that messaging. A lot of the imperatives are going to be similar. There will be some differences, but you might have done creative messaging that you can sort of borrow and use. It's all about those quick wins. And so through that, you've got that economy of scale through your main one-to-one program into something that's a lighter version of it. And as you said, Kerry, sometimes through that engagement and that investment, that initial smaller investment you're giving it in your light program, it might graduate to something more robust once you do win something through that engagement. But it's definitely something that you can leverage as well. Just in the interest of time, I'm just going to go on to the next one, Kerry. So for a lot of our clients, stakeholder mapping is critical in the ABM process. And people think stakeholder mapping, they think, just, okay, we'll go and we'll get an org chart. But it typically is more than that. So, when you hear it mentioned, you need to be thinking about the different components involved in that. So we don't just focus on the obvious decision makers. We look deeper to identify the influences behind the scenes. It allows you to build relationships at different levels. It allows you to ensure your messaging is resonating across the entire organization based on the areas or the imperatives that that particular buying group or division is going to care about. So it's not just about mapping, it's about alignment. So Kerry, I mean, how does Verizon use stakeholder mapping and strategic alignment to enhance relationships as you scale your ABM efforts?
Yeah, I think stakeholder mapping is crucial in all accounts, but in one-to-one ABM where you need to influence widely and deeply, getting the stakeholder mapping right and aligned is crucial. So we need to build relationships at different levels in an organisation, levels of seniority, from exec to managers to C-level and so on. So that's in the account. Then we need to align and map those key people at their levels and in their functional groups to our internal stakeholders. So the right peer level, the right functional perspective, and so on. And that is really important. So the right people influence and speak to the right people at the right time. Within this, it's important to ensure that each of the internal stakeholders, so our stakeholders from the various functions and at the various levels, understands what's important not only for the account as a whole, but for also each person in the account, in the account buying group. So it's at a person level, depending on their role, their function, their imperatives. So understanding their challenges and their direction and so on. So each internal stakeholder needs to understand the account manifesto or whatever the document is that you will develop in the program for that account, will understand the personalised account messaging, as well as the particular opportunity strategy. And that's very important to get that briefing right.
For sure.
And that's the alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really around helping you target precisely, right? And I feel like that kind of does go on to nicely to our next section, which is around targeting precisely. And Kerry, you just touched on enabling your own internal execs for those exec to exec connects, and making sure there's enablement around whatever the hero asset is, whether it is a manifesto or an infographic or whatever it is. There needs to be enablement. You need to set everyone up for success for that aha moment. You'd be surprised that those moments are not set up the best way possible. They sometimes can fall flat, and then you'll have your exec talking about whatever. But it's about engaging the right people at the right time. In strategic ABM, it's all about getting the timing and relationships right. and we just spoke about it, identifying the key influencers, decision makers early is critical to nurturing these relationships and influencing them over the long term. So, Kerry, I'm interested to know from you or hear from you about how Verizon identifies and builds relationships with the right people at the right stages of the ABM journey. I know you've just taken us on that journey around the exec to exec connect, but any other pearls of wisdom there?
Yeah, look, I think really at this stage, for us, part of the challenge is that the global nature of a lot of our accounts. So we've got customers, most of the customers in one-to-one ABM will have a global operation. So they'll have decision making shared in different countries. And so it's important for us to know the key people in each country and to have executive engagement, and not only executive engagement, general functional engagement in those countries too, where possible, at the right time and with the right people. So it's understanding the roles in each of these countries for those accounts, where the decision making is, where the key influences are, the technical buyers, and so on. And that this gives its own complexity here in being able to do that. But it does work really well when you do. Briefing the execs, preparing them out of country, we can orchestrate that from here, helping them to understand the account strategy, put the messaging so that they can engage meaningfully, whether they're part of an event like a roundtable, at a virtual meeting, in an ad hoc meeting, or in an executive briefing. Our exec team and our team that's going to be engaging, whichever country they're in, need to be well prepared, as I've talked about before, so they can have impactful conversations and ultimately help to build trust.
Absolutely. I think one of the risks as well with exec to exec connects, just on that, is that you might have someone within your business who is head of finance, and is the thought leader for finance or the thought leader for government. And just little things like making sure those schedules align and that they actually work towards them. I can't tell you how many times, the scheduling hasn't aligned, and then for whatever reason, the deal then is happening after that, schedule. So just making sure that if you do have an SME who is in, I don't know, Singapore, they might be in the US, but your key CEO or CIO that you're trying to connect with is in Mumbai, or they might be in Sydney, then you need to ensure that that can practically happen, not just the initial meet, but also subsequent meets and subsequent communications, and just making sure that you're working closely with all your functions, including you might have an executive value team, for example. So making sure that's all aligned. I feel like we've really done covered the executive engagement quite well, but just in terms of executive engagement, really is its own strategy. A lot of companies have their own function when it comes to executive engagement, and a lot of ABM is executive engagement. So making sure that you're not working in silos there is really important, and leveraging executive sponsorship across regions. I mean, Kerry, you've already touched on executive sponsors, making sure they're fully engaged, especially in a global program where there might be regional differences in engagement styles, etc. Are you able to talk a little bit more about engaging executives in different regions in APAC? Because there are varying differences there. Would you not agree?
Yeah, there's a couple of threads here that I could talk about. I would like to touch on making sure that we are very aware of cultural norms and perspectives in all of the countries we operate in, because ultimately that is about respect, and that's respect for our customers as well as our team members. And in particular for us, we operate across ANZ, North and South Asia, and Japan. Now, in Japan, we need to understand how to operate there, and certainly are guided by our fabulous Japan team and our Japan marketer. But it is about, for example, you don't communicate by email to a Japanese C-level executive. So in all of our programs, we remove them from email and such like. So we need to be very careful, and this needs to feed into the one-to-one ABM program as well, which needs to operate a little differently in Japan and as much as possible in Japanese language as well. But the other thing that I'd like to talk about here is for the executives, and we've got the picture here, they can be in different countries. Let's say it's the US and Australia. So we map out where our executives are going to be. We want to set up an executive briefing, right, with the key execs in the US. We're here in Sydney. How do we do that? So we work out who the key executives are from region who might be traveling. We map the key executives in the US relevant to that market segment or that account. And then we map what events that we know of, and we do research this, what events we know of where our one-to-one ABM accounts will be speaking or attending. And we try and create that pivot there where we can arrange an exec meeting at the event they'll be speaking or attending, or we can at least arrange for a senior stakeholder, internal stakeholder, to be at that event, to be able to have sideline discussions with the account. And this has proved to be really successful and useful for us, and great feedback from the accounts as well. We can orchestrate across countries. One thing we do is leverage executive briefing center experiences. For example, if we have our one-to-one account execs traveling, we can offer them an executive briefing experience in the US or in London or wherever. And this has proved to be very popular for our one-to-one accounts and generally at times. And it's a really good personalised option. But that, of course, is if the timing and the travel works. There's a bit going on there to making sure we got the right people, meeting the right people at the right time, and you've got travel and everything to take into account. But it's really useful.
For sure. I think, one of the risks we face as marketers is having executive sponsors who aren't in the same region, as I mentioned before. That's why it's always important to be practical about that engagement, which you've just spoken about, Kerry. Yeah. But and that process of mapping it, and we've got templates to map executive engagement, or you might already have internal processes in place, or you may not need to map it, but having some sort of plan, executive engagement plan, where are executives going to be? What events are they going to be attending? What are the opportunities available at those touch points? And providing those and spoon feeding sales in a lot of scenarios, just going, this is the event, you need to be here on this date. This is our moment to shine. This is an inflection point. And it might be an inflection point either that they have identified. Obviously, you're going to get more buy-in and there's going to be more enthusiasm because it's, I'm going to this event. Can you help me? But in some scenarios, it's like, you should be at this event. And Verizon's very good at doing this. It's like, there's this happening. He's going to be in San Fran. You need to be there. Otherwise, the exec needs to be there. Here's the asset. Here's the message. Prioritize this message first. And that really is key to establishing those relationships, with very senior people, which do actually add to the winning the marathon, right? So providing them with that detailed event and engagement mapping, so they know what that message is to deliver and what relationship to establish, whether it's introducing that new solution, building on a current relationship, hold their hand and you see good results. I'm just going to move to the next slide in the interest of time, because I know we're nearly at the hour, Kerry. And thank you so much for sharing your deep insights with us today. It's been really useful for us in the audience. So I just want to land on this one. So, as we've discussed, one of the most critical aspects of strategic ABM is having an effective feedback loop. And it's not just about running a campaign and moving on. It's not just about month end. It's about consistently gathering data, measuring, reporting, and deciding on your next steps. And how do you handle this at Verizon to ensure your ABM program evolves based on the account's current situation? Are you able to share that with us?
Yeah, I think this is, in essence, this is going to be all about knowledge and agility, right? So it's where the integration of the mainstream field and digital campaigns gives the extra power to ABM. It's the results and the insights from these campaigns, which we've talked about. It could be engagement data from Nurture, event participation, the intent tool, a web inquiry. The ABM team reviews and agrees on approaches. So having said all that, the agility or that flexibility is really crucial for maintaining the effectiveness of the one-to-one program. And to do this, we do rescore an account from time to time. We do review the sales funnel and contribution. We do always review any RFP scheduling changes or new opportunities and proposals that are on the horizons. It's a very dynamic space, so we need to keep across it, stay agile, but rescore. Now, adopting this approach, we have taken accounts out of ABM, out of one-to-one ABM, and we've moved new ones in. It is dynamic. But I also need to emphasize that one-to-one ABM is a long play with the investment of people's time and energy as well as budget. So this needs to be done carefully with real data and stakeholder inputs. But absolutely be agile. It is dynamic, and rescore.
Yeah, and collaborate and integrate where you can. I don't know, this is all about integrating with your marketing functions, which we've covered, but really it's not just a marketing strategy, it's not a sales strategy, it's a business strategy, it's a revenue strategy. You need to treat it accordingly. The most successful ABM programs, as I've seen at Verizon and other clients, there is wide buy-in and everyone's excited because it is a revenue strategy. Everyone's doubled down on it. And just to kind of add to your point around, deprioritizing, de-investing in one ABM program account, they might go back into your one-to-many, there might be a one-to-few, but also just evolving the program in the strategic sense. So, and we've also kind of touched on this, if a senior leader from a division you weren't originally targeting is heavily engaging with your content, so in the scenarios that Kerry gave us, evolve your ABM strategy. Don't pigeonhole the messaging you've got into that stakeholder might need a whole new ABM play. We do this with Verizon. It's great. So you're able just to go, okay, we've got 3 ABM plays. We're going to need 4 for this person because we didn't cover sustainability. They might be head of sustainability or whatever it is. Who they are, their buying group, you need to have a message around it, and then you can then just evolve the content you've got. You can add a little section, change the first opening paragraph, whatever it is. There are quick ways that you can actually meet this person where they are and to make sure that you are seizing the opportunity. Right place, right time. Sometimes the time doesn't choose when it's right, so you need to react to it appropriately. And with that, I think we're at time. I saw one question coming through before, but just to quickly recap, make sure you're aligning ABM with both pre-sale and post-sale, which is how we've begun today's conversation. It's all about customer lifetime value. And if you're looking at selling in a strategic one-to-one ABM program to your business, It could be to your global CMO. Emphasizing customer lifetime value is a really good starting point. Start looking at top 10 customers. And you're probably already doing this, but what are the upsell, cross-sell? How can you attach yourself to those things? So in terms of scaling those ABM efforts, adapting your strategies, making sure that personalization makes sense where it does. There's light ways in which you can do it. Refining your account selection criteria, not just based on the opportunity, but the team behind it and attached to it. Are they bought in? Is this a pilot program? You're going to have to make sure your team is razor sharp around what they need to do, not just from sales, but also marketing. And that continuous feedback loop, which we ended on. You want to make sure that you are not investing in a program that's falling flat. Refocus on areas or people within the account that you're getting the most traction through, so you can land those wins, whether they be quick or long, and just make sure that there is this concept of evolution that's drilled down into every person that is brought into the program internally in the business. With that, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. And I think all your questions, we will get back to you individually. I see there's a question that came through around feedback loops, but I think in the interest of time, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks, Will.